he can get way out in front.
Looks like it's just going to be a Scavenging Ooze and attack here for 1. So Stepka's going to go down to 19. Still a pretty good start, putting some aggression on, forcing the hand of Supreme Verdict from Stepka if he does have it. And Stepka does draw a Temple of Enlightenment for the turn. So you see an Azorius Charm hanging out over there. You also see a Syncopate. So does he want to play the Temple or does he want to play an untapped land? He goes with the basic planes before passing back to Habel, who's going to take a draw step here. He's got Xenagos Xenagos the Reveler in his hand. I take that back. Might be time to cast Azorius Charm.
Well, I do not believe that Ben has Supreme Verdict in hand, so he has to trade 1 for a little while at least. Now, which creature he targets is a pretty interesting question.
Well, he's definitely targeting something. Now he's just trying to figure which one. You see Azorius Charm placed onto the table here.
Yeah, the question with this attack and this Azorius Charm is Jonathon attacking with the Elvish Mystic because he is missing mana or because he has too much of it?
Yeah.
And that dictates whether or not Ben wants to Azorius Charm either the Scavenging Ooze or the mana creature.
The answer is A, he's missing mana. Because here's a Temple of Enlightenment. I'll leave that card on top and pass the turn back here as Habel's going to draw that Elvish Mystic for the turn. Time to get in with that Ooze yet again. We'll follow this up with an activation.
And this may turn out to be a small mistake on Jonathon's part in not leading with the Elvish Mystic, as now this opens up for it to get syncopated.
Yeah, this might be the best a Syncopate gets. Or he might just want to hold off on the Syncopate because he thinks he can do better with this, countering a Dragon or a Xenagos, something of that nature. And you see no Syncopate at all. Another copy of Temple of Enlightenment off the top. So time to scry.
And we've seen this a couple times with blue-white control on camera. Even when their hands are good and doing stuff, they still are under a lot of pressure to find Supreme Verdict very fast in the game.
Mm-hmm. So Habel, I still don't think he has a third land. He does have another Rampager, however. He says, all right, let's get in with both creatures. Time to Rampage again, it looks like, on the Elvish Mystic this time. So that's going to be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and all of a sudden Stepka's down to 2. Stepka just doesn't have anything. We talked about how Last Breath isn't great in this matchup, but, it kind of would have been good here in this particular game, and now he's left having to draw like Supreme Verdict right now. At the Temple of Silence, he's got a Jason in his hand, but Jason doesn't get the job done.
Yeah, it looks like Ben is just going to die to these anemic beatdowns.
This is not what I imagined happening in game number 1, losing to Scavenging Ooze and Elvish Mystic and then just Blood Rush on Gore-Clan Rampager, but that looks like what's going to take place.
Ben just double and triple checking here because it's almost hard to believe. And he says,
He shrugs his shoulders and he just says, you didn't even play any of your good cards in the matchup against me and I just lost.
Or make a third land drop even.
Yeah, but that gets it done for Jonathon Habel, so he's going to win game number 1 here with Green-Red Monsters over Ben Stepka playing Blue-White Control, as we're going to bring it back to the booth because it is time to ask that final question for you guys. I expected that game to actually go longer. A little setup time for the question, but we're already there.
If the Green-Red Monsters list is going to win, at least do something impressive.
Yeah.
That was just...
Scavenging Ooze, Blood Rush it a couple times, you're dead. Good enough, I guess. Full year being fired away. He's got your question for you. Hashtag the answer, hashtag SCG Premium. We'll announce the winner at the conclusion of our finals round. We'll draw it from the group of people who do get the answer correct. Fire away.
In less than a week, Cedric and I will be traveling to another venue to cover yet another Open Series. Name that city.
Where are we going to be next week for the Open Series? Patrick and I will be doing coverage yet again. If you guys know the name of the city, hashtag SCG Premium. And again, we'll announce the winner at the conclusion of our finals matches. We're going to take a look at sideboards now. You got blue-whites. Fire away.
2 Angel of Serenities, an additional Aetherling. He has 1 in the main deck and 1 in the sideboard. 2 Revoke Existence, a Negate, a Last Breath, 2 Gainsays, 3 Celestial Flares, a Azorius Charm, 2 Dispels. I think the additional Azorius Charm and the 3 Celestial Flares will certainly be coming in. I believe the Angel of Serenities will be coming in as well. We haven't actually got to see that resolve last round against his red-green opponent, so we're not 100% sure it's coming in, but I would imagine it's 4 matchups like this.
We take a look at Stepka's side, take a look at Habel's side of things. 4 Mistcutter Hydra, 2 Plummet, 2 Shock, 2 Unravel the Aether, a Rurik Thar the Unbowed, a Hammer of Perforos, 2 Chandra Power Master, and a Mizium Mortars. Of course, 4 Mistcutters are going to be joining us. Unravel likely to come in as well to take care of Intention Sphere. Rurik Thar, we've seen that over the course of this week, and that's going to come in here. Chandra Power Masters in some numbers. I'm not sure if you want 2 after sideboard, but he's got access, so those will come in. And then Hammer of Perforos, a card that you don't typically see in the sideboard of green-red monsters. This is a really good tool against them.
Yeah, we've talked so much about how important haste is in the matchup, and Mistcutter Hydra and Stormbreath Dragon being the best tools that green-red has. And Hammer can turn everything into smaller versions of those creatures. So, like you said, unorthodox one of, probably not in many lists, simply because it's double red, and the deck's mana base is biased towards gray mana, but it could be very impactful here.
So we will see how these players do sideboard. Very, very quick game one, given the pace of our last match, which did take a little while between green-red monsters and blue-white control. But you can tell Habel is pretty sure of himself as far as decisions are concerned and plays at a pretty quick pace. Stepka a little bit more deliberate, but it has obviously worked out for him so far as he is in the finals of our 11-round Swiss Standard Open. It's been a long tournament. We've had some great stories. We saw Kent Ketter, go 9-0 in the Swiss, making his third top 8 this season, climbing the Open Series leaderboard very quickly, but his tournament was ended by Chris Van Meter, who started off 1-1-1 before running off 8 in a row to make top 8, make it one more to get past Ketter to make it to the semifinals before being stopped by Jonathon Habel over here on the right. So some big name players in the top 8, but they were taken out, and now we have 2 players here, and Ben and Jonathon looking to get their first Open Series title.
But still great finishes for our big names given the hunt for points for this season.
Yeah.
Chris Van Meter now within striking distance of potentially snagging the Season 1 invite, although there's a lot of Opens left to be played, of course. And Kent Ketter is setting himself up for a nice run for a 2014 end-of-year invite.
So we, of course, will track those players over the course of our Legacy Open as well. We also saw Star City Games select side writer Adrian Sullivan have a great weekend before losing his win-and-in match, playing blue-white control. I believe this tournament he is playing Death and Taxes. We'll find out more about what Adrian is up to over the course of our Legacy Open, which has begun here. We are into round number 1. Looks like we're probably going to start coverage beginning with round number 4 today in Legacy. But we've got a 9-round tournament, so we've got plenty of coverage to bring to you guys. A lot of big names here: Joe Bernal, Andrew Tenjum, Sullivan's I did mention, Van Meter's in the Legacy tournament as well. So it should be a lot of fun watching those players cast brainstorms and whatever else they're up to.
Yeah, the big Legacy tournaments also have a habit of drawing out some of the cooler fringe decks.
Yes.
I feel like we're a lot more likely to see a Metalworker brew in the top 8 of a larger Open than some of the smaller ones.
Yes. You see both players, looks like Stepka's happy with his configuration. Habel, after taking a look at the sideboard, looks like he's pleased with his as well. So you do see both players shuffling up here as we do get ready for game number 2 of our finals here in St. Louis. Don't forget, if you take a look at the results that we've seen so far in our Standard Opens, we saw Turtenwald win in Indianapolis with mono black, and we saw Wilkerson win in Orlando with mono blue. We go to Columbus, we see Kenny win with Big Boros, a deck that hasn't really gained any traction since that tournament. After that, we see Zach Jesse win with mono black in Baltimore. We follow that up with Eric Brown in Nashville with mono blue. But neither of those decks here in the finals, none of the decks listed, mono blue, mono black, and even the Big Boros deck that Kenny played in the finals here. So a really diverse metagame.
And we still haven't, I feel, gotten our full heads around what Born of the Gods can possibly
Not
provide.
at all. Not at all.
Like I said, that mono white splash blue build that we had on camera, I believe that pilot finished X and 2, possibly X and 3. That's something I'm going to try to work on when I get home.
Yeah, that definitely looks like a very interesting deck. Stepka's going to start here with a Temple of Enlightenment. Jonathon's got a Temple on his side.
Temple of Enlightenment, not a card I was anticipating needing to buy early on in my Magic Online season with Born of the Gods, but that might be changing.
That card is very important for what looks to be multiple decks. But it is a huge upgrade, obviously, for blue-white. As you see Stepka just draw his card. He's got a Temple of Silence now. Celestial Flare in his hand. Looks like there may be 2 copies. Of course, he does have 3 in his sideboard. You also see Dissolve in his hand as well. So not a bad hand here as a Temple of Abandon here from Jonathon. We're going to play probably a shorter game than we saw in game 1. Looks like it's time for Elvish Mystic.
Fair amount of mana in Jonathan's hand, along with Rorkthar. A Chandra, some tools.
Temple of Deceit.
It looks like Ben's hand's pretty reactive, but with nothing to actually leverage an advantage. A lot of 1-for-1 answers, but no copies of Jace to Sphinx's Revelation.
Yeah, no card drawing right now. You see another Chandra drawn here for Jonathon. Looks like we're going to start firing down Planeswalkers. Now's as good a time as any. With the Dissolve Shield down, you can attempt to resolve this Chandra Power Master. It does resolve, and it's going upstairs. Stepka going to go down to 19. So Habel's going to pass the turn back, and Stepka's going to take a draw step here. That is a Plains. Does not cycle Azorius Charm, so he plays a Temple of Deceit. Top card going to the bottom before Ben just passed the turn back with Dissolve at the ready.
Green Red Monsters is a rare deck that actually has no interest in its Planeswalker ultimate when it comes to Chandra.
Yeah.
This is basically just a 0.
Just a card drawing engine.
Yeah, and Xenagos is very similar as well.
Mm-hmm.
Very rare do you see it making mana, and even rarer you see someone try to go for the ultimate.
Yeah. It's that middle ability that's going to be used right now. There's a forest, and Jonathon awkwardly had played his land first, so maybe a bit of a sequencing error there.
Some lessons need to be learned but once.
And so here's a Sylvan Caryatid. Pass the turn back here. Stepka still not cycling Azorius Charm. Very patient with that card. He draws a Sphinx's Revelation. Hasn't got to make any of the 1-for-1 trades he wants to make, so that Revelation is backbreaking either.
Yeah, ideally, you would want to sequence the game where you run both players out of stuff and then fire off a big Revelation.
Boon Satyr here on the end step from Habel. You can see just how good this card can be in this matchup. Flash is obviously quite good against blue-white. It's normally a tool that they use to their advantage, but now the green cards have it.
Yeah. And Ben has to be slightly worried about using a counterspell here because who knows what that could open up on Jonathon's turn.
We know it's a Rurik Thar, which is terrifying. Temple of Abandon. Take a look, Skipoo. This is, I believe, a Gore Clan Rampager. And he says, do I want that?
Yeah, the question is this the card that he wants to 0 over with Chandra?
Yeah.
Or does he want to try with something else?
Looks like he's going to keep it. Here comes the Satyr. And that's a Flare. So bye-bye goes the 4-2. I think you're okay with that exchange of resources because if that's taking out that, not a Stormbreath Dragon or a Mistcutter Hydra or a Rurik Thar, that feels like a win to me.
Yeah, and all these 1-for-1 exchanges that, you know, while you're still sort of pressing your advantage a little bit and developing your board, it sort of takes the sting out of a potential Supreme Verdict if your board gets built up, or rather, he has to use removal spells, leaving himself very little left over.
Mm-hmm. You see Habel go for Rurik Thar. It's going to get dissolved. Card's going to stay on top here. And now Chandra's going to go upstairs. It's going to knock Stepka down to 18. So just going to make sure the number of counters on that are correct. And we saw the first activation. From Jonathon shoot. The second one revealed the forest, and the third one goes upstairs. So 6 counters is appropriate.
It felt like a slightly aggressive use there of casting your Rurik Thar when Gore Clan Rampager also does a lot to advance your board, and you have access to it as a 0 through your Chandra. Because ideally, you would want to sculpt the game in such a way where this forces Ben to either Supreme Verdict or tap out for something.
Yeah.
And then Rurik Thar is what you have left over.
Supreme Verdict was the card drawn here for Ben, as Jonathon's going to untap. Looks like he's going to draw that Gore Clan Rampager. Now here's a 0 ability. There's a Sylvan Caryatid. Very low impact card in this matchup. Yeah, very, very low impact card. That's part of the reason that the mana accelerants are a little scary to have in your deck after Sideboard, because they all just get swept up underneath they all get swept up underneath, obviously, Supreme Verdict. They're not great hits with Domri, and they're not great hits with Chandra either.
And the game is a lot more about trying to just make incremental progress. That's another part of it, too.
Yeah.
When the game is going on longer, you can anticipate you just have more time to make your land drops. When instead of just curving out as fast as possible and trying to hit your opponent with big creatures really fast, which is the deck's game one game plan in most matchups, you're trying to resolve a Planeswalker here, resolve a Planeswalker here. All right, now here's one creature.
Yeah.
And Sylvan Caryatid is just doesn't line up as well in those kind of games as it does in games where you're just trying to curve out as fast as possible.
Revelation for 3 from Stepka. Going to gain some life back here. Go back to 19. Draw a couple of cards. Syncopate the draw for the turn. There's a Mutavault. See if it's time to cash in that Verdict. It looks like the answer is yes. And it is, yes. So Supreme Verdict's going to clean up 4 creatures and add a little mana to the mana pool, remove a card or 2 with Scavenging is. A little bit interesting. He's going to remove a Sphinx Revelation, okay. And I actually like that because of Elixir. Like, I'm not sure if Elixir is in Ben's deck list. Like, this is a good practice if you're just playing against Elixir decks.
Yeah, there is no Elixir in Ben's 75, but...
Stormbreath Dragon off the top. Going to cast that. It's going to get Syncopated for 1. So bye-bye that goes. Good Syncopate there. Syncopate's been pretty impressive so far. There's a stomping ground
in the
after.
post-board games, it feels like Green Red Monsters is so much more about, 4 and 5 mana cards. Syncopate goes up in value.
I've just been really, really impressed with Syncopate over the course of the weekend. As you see, Mutavolt's going to come in and put Chandra down to 4. It's kind of the ugly stepchild of counterspells, but it plays an important purpose.
Having something to do on the second turn is really important too.
Yeah.
The places where blue-white control falls behind is where the second and third turn goes by, and for whatever reason, it can't answer the stuff that's going on.
Looks like we're going to see a Boon Satyr get cast here. Now Habel's going to pass the turn back over to Stepka. So he's just trying to build a board here with Chandra. Everything else. Chandra allowing him to draw 2 cards a turn, basically, as there's a Hollow Fountain coming to play tapped. See Stepka's hand right now. He's got that Verdict. He's got 2 copies of Azorius Charm. He's been sandbagging those charms for a while now. He's had one since the opening turn of the game. He's not used. And a Celestial Flare. Forest coming into play.
And you get the sense, even though Jonathon's essentially drawing 2 cards a turn with Chandra and his draw step, that we're only 1 big spell away from Ben from the game getting turned around.
That's how it feels to me in Elspeth, for example. Just kind of closes the door, even though Chandra is kind of working overtime right now. Here's an attack for 4. Stepka says, yeah, sure. I'll take 4. I go to 15. And now Jonathon just passes the turn back. So Ben will untap. He'll take a draw. That's an Aetherling. That's a big spell, as you mentioned. I think he's safe to cast this, probably.
Yeah, not a lot can really go wrong here other than his shields being down and possibly allowing something like Stormbreath Dragon or Mistcutter Hydra to sneak through.
And the fact that he can keep up Celestial Flare, too, is really, really important. 3, 4, 5, 6. There's the Ling. So Boon Satyr on tap. Take a draw here. This could get a little bit ugly now. Especially Aetherling in combination with the lifelink one on Azorius Charm. The race just so heavily favors Stepka now.
Yeah, and this is what I was talking about where, for all the card advantage Jonathon's generating, it's not clear that it's going to be enough if Ben finds one of his power cards.
Yeah. It's not a card advantage, but it's not card advantage plus pressure, is I believe the problem. As Chandra is going to shoot 1 and then upstairs to Ben, but more importantly, Aetherling can't block right now. So we're going to see Jonathon fire at Mutavolts as well. I'm starting to get in the red zone for 8. Yeah, and you saw Ben reaching for the Aetherling and says,
Not so fast.
Chandra's got a lot of text on it, one of which says your creature can't block.
And I like this angle a lot from Jonathon here, as he's potentially pushing through a lot of damage this turn while keeping the Stormbreath Dragon in his hand. That's sort of his ace in the hole in all of this.
Yeah.
It's a very hard card for Ben to answer right away, and so if he can deal a ton of damage without having to deploy that card, that might be able to steal the game.
Azorius Charm going to come down. Try to take care of this Boon Satyr now. Looks like that's going to be on the stack. That'll be a Rampager on a Mutavault. So it's going to be an attack for 8 damage. Stepka's going to go down to 6. A little bit closer game than it appears, even though Aetherling has shown up. That was the turn where you knew that something was going to happen as far as damage is concerned. A lot was going to occur. And a lot did occur, obviously. Stepka's down to 6. You see Supreme Verdict for the draw here.
And Jonathon may just be able to steal this.
It's getting mighty close. There's a pump to the Aetherling to take down Chandra. Again, Ben does know that there is a copy of Boonsater on top. He's going to blink out the Aetherling to have it back on blocking duty for those Mutavaults. Let's not ignore how important Mutavault's been over the course of this game. It's looked quite good.
Yeah, it gets lost in the shuffle so many times because it's just a land in play, right? But last turn it was critical for Jonathon to have 2 copies, and it's really important for Ben for blocking as well.
Yeah.
Very easy to lose sight of the free value.
Oh, I never miss free value.
It's not Storm Breath Dragon, it's not Aetherling, it's not big and flashy, but it's as powerful a part of the game as anything else.
Yeah. So now it's funny. Aetherling just changes the way you have to play the game drastically. You know, before he was kind of bobbing and weaving, a little card advantage here, a little card advantage there, taking his time. Aetherling comes down and it's like, oh, I guess I better get moving.
Yeah. He needs to set up, Jonathon needs to start to set up a big board. He can't attack incrementally through Aetherling. That doesn't work.
No more messing around.
And you can tell he's trying to come up with a line that involves not running the Storm Breath Dragon out of there. He's going to end up doing it, but you know, it's got to be painful for him.
Yeah, clearly not thrilled. Now the big question here is, do you even attack with this dragon? You probably have to. You may not feel great about this attack, but you probably have to, and just hope your opponent doesn't have a flare. Ooh, this gets even worse if this is the play. Okay.
Yeah, this is the best attack. It plays around Celestial Flare the best. Also, if Ben happens to have very little, you might be able to cobble close to lethal.
Yeah, the question here is, does Ben know the actual trick with Flare to be able to take care of this dragon?
Yeah, after damage is dealt, there's a window where you're still inside of combat and things are attackers. So
it's after damage resolves, but still inside of combat before you leave the combat step. You're able to cast Celestial Flare and take care of the dragon. We'll see if he knows that interaction. Could also just go lifelink mode on this. That's actually pretty good. Looks like that might be what he's doing. This looks like a bunch of activations of Aetherling.
Is he just trying to gain as much as possible here?
That's what it feels like to me. Yeah, so it looks like a bunch of, we're going to see what happens with the dust settles and life totals and all that stuff, but it looks like, this was an Azorius charm that's going to gain life, and then damage will be dealt with the dragon and all that stuff. So once we have updated life totals, you'll see that Ben is at 10 now.
Yeah, most likely the Aetherling got moved to a 6/3 to survive combat, but gain as much life as possible.
And so now Ben is still perfectly fine as he can attack with Aetherling, blink it out, cast Supreme Verdict to take care of the dragon if he so wishes, and then just keep moving forward that way, or you can just leave up the Celestial Flare and get the job done that way. I'll start with Chase. Not the worst place to begin. That's going to go down to 2. Take a look at our top 3 cards here. So Temple of Silence, a Plains, and an Island. This is 2 or 1. 2 is the answer. We'll put that Temple of Silence on the bottom of the deck, not the graveyard. There we go, Ben. So just play an Island. You do see the hand right now, double Supreme Verdict, Celestial Flare, and a Plains. And while that's not the most impressive hand we've ever seen, it's still difficult to overcome here for Jonathon.
It's just answers to Storm Breath Dragon and insurance against Mistcutter Hydra. Those are the big tools.
Yeah. The tapping of the Mutavaults may come back to hurt him. We'll see. Gonna blink this out, come back in. Also, don't forget here, Stepka's only at 10, and Habel has like monstrosity mana activation.
Yeah.
You know, if he goes for it here, it's not game over, obviously, but he will get to deal 4 points of damage.
He doesn't even have to say. Doesn't even have to do anything right now. He can simply say go.
Yeah.
Say draw. All right, draw a card.
He's going to attack here. Yeah, this is why having access to three flares is such a big deal. Because it plays a really big role in this matchup.
Yeah, you have so many tools to answer all the other stuff that's going on that just cleaning up the stray dragons and hydras is the most important thing. And Celestial Flare is the best card for the job, while also being pretty efficient in other places too. It's not just a narrow answer for those cards. As we see the Monstrous on Stormbreath Dragon to take care of Jace. But now this is a big untap for Ben.
Yeah. This is just, that exchange of resources is what it is. But, one of these players has an Aetherling in play and one does not. And so now Ben can really start getting after Jonathon's life total and close this game out in 2 turns. If he fires up Mutavault, makes the Aetherling attack for 8. You see an attack here for 6. And we're probably going to see some activations of Aetherling. I'm going to activate once. Twice. 3 times. And the full amount. So attack here for 8. It's going to make it 10. So Habel's going to go down to 5.
And Ben rather with plenty of blue mana left over to protect this Aether Line.
Yep. That's all he needs to do. There's a Temple of Abandon. Take a look here as Habel gamely plays on. And the fact that there's so much protection, you make your creature unblockable, that'll get the job done. As Stepka's going to take an untap here. He'll take a draw. That's a Hallowed Fountain off the top to go along with those 2 verdicts that he has not needed to cast this game. And I think Patrick, momentarily, we're moving on to a 3rd and final game here. As here comes the Ling. And there's the unblockability. Well, there's the pump. Here's a Boonsader that's trying to block. I think we'll see before blocks, just make it unblockable. Yep, and that's going to do it. So, Ben Stepka is going to win game number 2 here over Jonathon Habel. And we are going to move to a 3rd and final one of our very large Standard Open.
Yeah, and that game was a great demonstration of some of the stuff that I was talking about where, their green red monster deck still needs to be fast. Jonathon had Chandra in play uncontested for several turns, finding extra cards.
Yeah.
But that's not the end-all, be-all of the matchup. That's nice if it's supplementing other stuff. Or if you're forcing Ben to react to things and trade 1 for 1, that's all well and good. But if you're just sitting on your hands, eventually you just get to the points where Revelations and Jaces and Aetherlings and Elspeth overwhelm the card advantage that you're generating.
I mean, that Chandra doing that in combination with creatures attacking, that's where things get really hairy. Because then you've got dragons that are going to go uncontested, Mistcutter Hydras are going to go uncontested, all that good stuff. And that's when things are beautiful. But when it's just by itself, it's just not all that impressive. So we'll see if Jonathon's going to be able to get that combination that he's looking for in this 3rd and final game of our Open. You see both players shuffling up here pretty quickly. They're happy with their configs. So they know, and I'm sure that each player has played against this matchup multiple times over the course of this weekend, Yeah.
And the one Planeswalker that's an exception to all of this is Domri, because Domri's ultimate is a real threat that causes blue-white control to react.
Yes.
The 2/2 tokens you're making from Xenagos or the extra cards you're finding from Chandra, the blue-white control that can ignore that or sweep that up with Detention Sphere down the line, what have you. Domri's generating extra cards right away potentially, and also threatening an ultimate, which is a backbreaker.
Yeah.
So that's the really important Planeswalker in all this. The rest of them are fine. There's nothing wrong with them, but they're not on the same level as Domri.
Yeah, none of these Planeswalkers and Chandra and Xenagos are working towards an ultimate. And so they don't put that tension on the opponent. They know what's going to happen every turn. There's only a couple things that can occur with those 2 Planeswalkers. For Xenagos, it's just going to make a 2/2. The mana effect is pretty much for the most part not going to happen.
Right.
With Chandra, shoot me for 1, sure, that's fine. And then if you're going to draw an extra card, while I can't predict what that card is, I can adjust appropriately and go from there. But you're not pressuring me with something that dramatic that's going to happen, as neither ultimate on those cards is of any relevance. And we'll see if Domri does show up, because that's another case entirely, and that card changes pretty much everything.
And also what happens when those Planeswalkers are plussing. With Xenagos, it's nothing. With Chandra, it's take one. With Domri, it's potentially draw a card. Those are very different power levels as well.
Yeah. That is the most important Planeswalker. As we see, Jonathan's going to take a look at his hand. We'll see if he can find a Domri this go-around, or just a hand that he likes. As we do have game number 3 of the finals here between Jonathon Habel and Ben Stepka. He's happy. Ben, are you?
And Ben's got to be a lot more aggressive looking for particular hands on the draw.
Yeah. Ben's happy as well. Looking for the go-ahead. Game 3, let's do it. Temple of Abandon to start. Top card stays on top. Stepka will take a draw. Supreme Verdict comes rolling off for him. He's got a Temple of Deceit. He's going to put his top card to the bottom. As Habel's going to draw a card. He kept, it looks like a Garrett Caller of Beasts.
And we've seen this do some real damage to blue-white in the past. It's tough to get it to resolve at 6 mana. That's asking a lot, but once it's in play, it is incredible.
And see, that's kind of the exception of the rule we were talking about there, where that's a Planeswalker that it's building towards, its ultimate doesn't really build towards anything, but the +1 is so good.
Yeah, you can't even call it incremental advantage. It's concentrate or whatever. Harmonize, I guess.
Yeah. See another Temple of Deceit here. Mystic coming on in. See if Habel has more lands. He does. There's a Forest. There's another Mystic. Oh, boy. He could work his way towards a turn 4 Garrick here. That would be very scary.
Putting Ben to the test here to have Detention Sphere.
It's interesting because in spots like this, I think you're perfectly fine if your opponent just Detention Spheres your elves, because that's like a weak Detention Sphere.
Exactly, and there's also some risk of these just getting swept away by a Supreme Verdict also. So there is some risk here, certainly, that Jonathan's taking, but the upside's huge, and the downside's actually fairly low.
You saw Stepka. He was going to put his Hollow Fountain in and play tapped. Then he brought it back to his hand. He looked at his island. He kind of shuffled around a little bit. Then he played his Hollow Fountain untapped. And to me, that feels like something giving away a little bit of information of, okay, I can kind of go for whatever I want to here. Now, in this particular situation, Mistcutter is a great play because obviously your opponent doesn't have 2 white mana, so you don't have to fear Azorius Charm, which couldn't target that anyway, or Celestial Flare. So this is a great hit.
And there's a good chance that untapped land is representing Dissolve as well, which Mistcutter Hydra curves very nicely into. He's playing a little bit into Supreme Verdict, but again, these decks don't have a plethora of untapped white mana to come right into play, although you see Hollow Fountain here. So there's a pretty good gamble here by Jonathan. He's getting punished for it slightly here, but I think he picked a pretty good spot to try to really seal the game.
Yeah, let's see what the follow-up is. Here's a Temple of Abandon to Gorkline Rampager. So a perfectly legitimate follow-up. Pass the turn back over to Stepka. He'll take a draw. It's an island. You see he's got 3 islands, a Revelation, a Celestial Flare in his hand. I think a Jace as well. There's a Mutavault. Yeah, not a bad hand. Pass the turn back. No counter spells, though. We'll see if Jonathan chooses to try to play around those or not. Starts by attacking.
Although playing that Hollow Fountain untapped on the 3rd turn might just be a... Jonathan might be working under the impression now that there's a Dissolve or some other counter spell. We know it was an Azorius Charm that ended up not working out because of the Mistcutter Hydra, but certainly Jonathan doesn't know that.
Here's a Domri. This is going to go up. That's a Boon Satyr. Pass the turn back. This is Revelation for 2. Stepka's going to go up to 8. 2 cards coming. Supreme Verdict and X. But now now Habel's coming from 2 different angles. He's got the Planeswalker and the 4/4. Detention Sphere has been added to Stepka's hand. Going to start the turn by playing an island.
And Jonathan might be getting a sense by that Domri resolving last turn that Ben might not actually have a counter spell at all.
Yeah. Because that's worth countering, obviously.
Yeah, last turn, I think that even if Jonathan had a 6 mana, he may not be willing to pull the trigger on that Garrick, but there's some evidence starting to mount that Ben might not have anything at all to stop it.
Yeah. You see, Stepka did want to cast Attention Sphere, it felt like. The question, of course, is what does he want to cast Attention Sphere on? You know, do I want to take care of the Planeswalker? Do I want to take care of the 4/4? He's a little choked on white mana right now, so he can't play Attention Sphere plus casting Celestial Flare. And that's, I think, the big problem here, is that his mana, even though he does have 6 lands in play, isn't lining up appropriately, and now he's just got to pass his turn back. No, this is this is pretty good. And Unravel the Aether.
And again, the speed with which Ben let that resolve is, you know, we're again starting to get more and more evidence that Ben has no answer in hand, at least to Garrick.
So Sphere gets shuffled back in. And now Jonathon gets to untap all of his stuff and get to work here. And the big question right now is you know, he could go for the lethal. I think it might be good with like the Boonsader Bestow. Now, of course, he doesn't know that, but for 4, Storm Breath going to go to the grip. Domri ticks up to 4. Boom. This is very telling.
Yeah.
Yeah. The fact that he's got a blocker is so telling. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. This game's going great for Jonathon now. He gets to get in for 6 points of trample damage. He's going to put Stepka down to 2.
And Stormbreath Dragon's still in hand.
If you cast Verdict, Boonsader's left over. This is a great sequence here.
And how much better was Boonsader there than Courser?
Courser? Yeah, very. Hey, Boonsader has been trash talked quite a bit from this deck, but it has looked pretty good from Habel. And this was a conscious decision, I think, to choose this card over Courser of Crewfix. This doesn't look like an accident to me.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he saw the spoiler for Born of the Gods by now, so I'd be surprised if he just didn't know that card existed.
I'm sure he also played against Courser a bunch today, too. This looks like a conscious decision to me to play that card. You see Ben kind of thumbing through his hand, and this is, I think this might be him coming to the realization.
And, you know, and it's a lot of the same thing that happened in Game 1 where Ben's looking at his hand where, again, it's not like he's just missing land drops or flooding out. There's plenty of good components. He has spot removal, he has a Jace, he has Supreme Verdict, but there's just too many little annoying interlocking pieces going on Jonathon's side of the board that all these answers just don't line up the right way in time.
Yeah, just none of it is lined up appropriately this game. He's going to drop the hand and extend it. Jonathon Habel defeats Ben Stepka 2-1. Green Red Monsters is your Star City Games St. Louis Standard Open champion.